It was a quiet morning on Earth when something extraordinary happened. High above the clouds, in the deep reaches of space, a massive fleet of ships appeared without warning. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, enormous, metallic, and gleaming with strange lights. They hovered in the outer edges of Earth's solar system, as though waiting for the right moment to reveal their true power. The people on Earth had no idea what this sudden arrival meant, but they were about to find out. The first message came through every radio, every TV, and every digital screen. It was clear, calm, and in a language no one on Earth had ever heard before. The message didn't make sense at first, but soon enough, scientists and linguists began translating. The words were simple, direct, and left no room for doubt. The speaker identified themselves as the Emperor of the Galactic Empire, a vast empire that spanned countless worlds across the stars. People of Earth, the message began, we are the Galactic Empire. You are being observed. You will comply with our laws, and we will allow you to join the Empire's great and powerful domain. The time for your world to bow before us is now. The people of Earth, gathered in their homes and workplaces, stared at the screens in shock. The leaders of the world, from every nation, were thrown into a frenzy. For years, Earth had been isolated, focused on their own growth and development. But now, they faced something they could never have imagined. An alien empire capable of traveling across the stars, arriving at their doorstep. At first, the leaders hoped it was a mistake. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, or some kind of advanced technology they didn't yet understand. They sent messages of peace, attempting to communicate with the strange beings in hopes of avoiding any conflict. But the Galactic Empire had no interest in diplomacy. Their intentions were clear. Earth was to join their empire, or face the consequences of resistance. The world's governments held an emergency meeting, and tension filled the air. Some leaders spoke of surrender, arguing that Earth had no power to fight against such a massive and advanced force. After all, humanity had only just begun to venture into space. They had only just landed on Mars. How could they possibly hope to stand up to the might of a galactic empire? But others, though smaller in number, held a very different view. They argued that Earth's strength lay not in its military might, but in its unity, its creativity, and its refusal to back down. They argued that humanity had always risen to the challenge when faced with impossible odds, and this time would be no different. After days of debate, the decision was made. The world would stand together, united in defiance of the Galactic Empire. The Earth's leaders issued a message of their own, broadcast to the entire galaxy. It was short, simple, and to the point. No passage will be granted. It was a declaration that no one had expected. The people of Earth had decided, without hesitation, that they would not submit. The Galactic Empire, which had conquered countless worlds without resistance, found itself facing something it had never encountered before, a species that refused to bow. The Empire, of course, was not used to refusal. It had grown accustomed to its overwhelming power and influence. The idea that a small, relatively primitive world would dare to turn away its advances was unfathomable to them. The Emperor himself laughed at the audacity of Earth's message, dismissing it as nothing more than the foolish pride of an insignificant planet. But as the Empire's fleet hovered over Earth, the humans weren't backing down. Behind closed doors, they began to prepare for what was coming next. They had no idea what these beings wanted or what they were capable of, but one thing was clear. They would not let their homeworld fall into the hands of an empire that sought to control everything. Humanity, often thought to be small and fragile in the grand scope of the universe, now found itself facing a choice. Would they surrender and join the empire, or would they fight for their freedom and their future? In that moment, humanity made a vow, quietly but firmly. They would not go down without a fight. As the days passed and the world held its breath, the ships of the Galactic Empire lingered in the skies, waiting for the next move. The people of Earth, on the other hand, began to unite like never before. They may not have had the technology to match the Empire's fleets, but they had something more powerful: hope, determination, and a desire to protect their way of life. The stage was set. The first steps toward an unimaginable conflict had been taken, and for the first time, humanity would show the galaxy what it truly meant to fight for its freedom. The vast ships of the Galactic Empire hung in space, their enormous forms casting shadows over Earth's blue and green surface. They seemed to block out the stars, a silent, menacing presence that filled the skies. The message Earth had sent was clear and simple: no passage will be granted. The response from the Empire, however, was anything but simple. The Emperor, sitting on his throne in the heart of the Empire's capital, looked down upon his advisors with a mixture of disbelief and annoyance. Never in all the centuries of his rule had any world dared to refuse the Empire's might. Earth, a tiny, relatively unknown planet, had sent back a defiant message. The Emperor's patience was wearing thin. "Why have they rejected us?" the Emperor demanded, his voice cold and calm. His advisors shifted nervously, knowing how dangerous it could be to upset their leader. The most trusted of his generals, a tall and stern officer named Commander Zorath, stepped forward. He was a veteran of many conquests and had never encountered a world that had resisted the Empire's will. "My lord, the humans are clearly confused," Zorath explained. "They likely don't understand the power we hold. They must think we are mere visitors, or that their small defenses can stand against us. They are a primitive species, unable to comprehend the full might of the Empire." The Emperor leaned forward, eyes glinting with a mixture of amusement and irritation. "Then show them what happens when they challenge us," he commanded. "Deploy the Imperial fleet. Show them what it means to defy the Galactic Empire." And so, the Empire's warships began to move, their engines humming with power as they prepared to leave the safety of the outskirts of the solar system and head directly for Earth. The Emperor's plan was simple: intimidate, force compliance, and make an example of Earth to discourage any future defiance. On Earth, world leaders had not expected the Empire to act so quickly. The message had only just been sent, and yet the enemy fleet was already on the move. Governments across the globe scrambled to assess the situation. The President of the United States, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and the leaders of every major nation held an emergency meeting. Their faces were grim as they watched the news reports on the arrival of the alien armada. Everyone understood the gravity of the situation. This was no ordinary threat. It was the Empire, and it was coming for them. "What can we do?" the President asked, his voice heavy with worry. "We have no ships that can match theirs. Our weapons are not even close to what they have." The military advisors around him exchanged looks, unsure of what to say. They had never faced anything like this before. Yet, as fear began to take hold of some, a few voices rose in defiance. A young general, who had seen his share of conflicts, stood up. "We may not have the technology to match them, but we have something they don't. We have each other. We have our people. We have Earth." The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of the general's words sinking in. The world had always relied on its unity, its diversity, and its creativity to solve problems. Perhaps now was the time to show the galaxy that humanity had something the Empire could never understand: an unyielding spirit. Meanwhile, the Galactic Empire's fleet drew closer. Commander Zorath watched as the immense ships slowly moved toward the planet. They were so much larger than anything Earth had ever seen. The Empire's technology was far beyond human capabilities. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with a single strike. Their ships could travel faster than light itself. Earth's small, fragile defenses would not stand a chance. "I want all ships prepared for action," Zorath ordered, his voice sharp. "When we land, we will show them why they should have complied." However, as the fleet approached Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The Empire had underestimated the planet's technological progress. Though Earth had not yet mastered space travel on the scale of the Empire, they had been advancing in secret, And in the shadows, a group of Earth's best scientists and engineers had been working tirelessly to develop technology that could stand up to this kind of threat. Earth's first line of defense was not in space. It was on the ground. A network of advanced anti-spacecraft weapons, developed in secrecy, had been installed around the world. These weapons were designed to neutralize any incoming threats, no matter how powerful. As the Empire's fleet moved closer to Earth, the first wave of Earth's defense systems activated. A series of bright flashes lit up the skies, sending energy beams racing toward the approaching ships. The Empire's commanders were caught off guard. Their shields flickered, momentarily weakening as the beams struck them. While the Empire's fleet was far from destroyed, the attack was enough to make them pause and rethink their approach. Back on Earth, the world held its breath. The first real sign of resistance had been made. Humanity had not been destroyed with a single blow. They had fought back. And though it wasn't a victory, it was a sign of something powerful, something the Empire hadn't counted on. In the heart of the Empire's fleet, Commander Zoreth was furious. The humans had shown them something they had not expected: defiance. This wasn't just a small planet. This was a world that would not bend easily. It was a world that would fight. And Zoreth knew that the Empire had just entered a conflict that might be harder than they had ever imagined. As the ships in the fleet moved back to their formation, the Emperor received a message from his commanders. The first wave of resistance had been stronger than anticipated, but the fleet was still ready. The decision had been made. They would not stop until Earth was under their control. But on Earth, the people knew something the Empire didn't. They weren't just fighting for their survival. They were fighting for their future, and no empire, no matter how powerful, would take that from them. The Galactic Empire had arrived at Earth with overwhelming power, yet the humans had shown something unexpected: resistance. Though it wasn't a victory, the attack from Earth's defense systems had disrupted the Empire's progress and slowed their advance. It was clear to both sides that the conflict was far from over. Back on Earth, in secret laboratories and military bases hidden across the globe, the true power of humanity was beginning to take shape. With the Empire drawing closer, Earth's brightest minds, scientists, engineers, and strategists, knew they had no choice but to work together to build technologies that could defend their home. They had always prided themselves on their creativity and ingenuity. Now those qualities would be their greatest weapons. The world's governments had come to an important realization. They could not rely on traditional military tactics to win this war. The Empire's technology was far superior. Their ships could travel faster than light. Their weapons could devastate entire cities in moments, and their forces had conquered planets without resistance. But Earth had something the Empire had never encountered: its ability to adapt and innovate under pressure. One of the first breakthroughs came from a group of engineers in a high-security facility in the United States. They had been working on advanced energy shields, hoping to one day use them to protect Earth's cities from natural disasters. But now, they realized the technology could serve a far greater purpose. The scientists quickly adapted the shields, making them powerful enough to withstand the energy blasts of the Empire's ships. It was a risky gamble, but they knew it was their best chance. At the same time, a team of physicists in Europe began developing weapons that could match the Empire's advanced technology. They studied the energy patterns of the Empire's ships and their weaponry, looking for weaknesses that they could exploit. They discovered that while the Empire's ships were powerful, they had one vulnerability: their energy systems were not designed to be attacked directly. If Earth's scientists could find a way to disrupt their power sources, it could cripple their entire fleet. The race against time was on. As the Empire's fleet grew closer to Earth's orbit, humanity's engineers worked day and night, pushing the limits of what they thought was possible. The stakes had never been higher. Earth's defenses were being built from the ground up, relying on the collective knowledge of thousands of people working together in the face of certain danger. Meanwhile, the leaders of Earth's nations were making plans of their own. They realized that a unified approach was their best hope of survival. Gone were the days of individual countries fighting for their own interests. The threat from the Empire was too great for anything but global unity. Leaders set aside their differences and formed a unified command, pooling resources and sharing information across borders. For the first time in history, humanity stood as one, united against an outside force that threatened to destroy their way of life. As the days passed, Earth's response began to take shape. New spacecraft were built, designed to fight the Empire's advanced fleet. These ships were smaller, but they were equipped with Earth's new technologies: energy shields, disruptor weapons, and propulsion systems that could maneuver in ways the Empire's massive ships could not. The humans didn't have the size or firepower of the Empire, but they had the advantage of innovation and creativity. One of the most exciting developments came from a group of young scientists who had been experimenting with artificial intelligence. They created a new type of AI that could predict the movements of the Empire's ships with incredible accuracy. By analyzing patterns in the Empire's tactics, the AI could help Earth's fleet stay one step ahead, giving them a fighting chance in the coming battles. But perhaps the most surprising development was the discovery that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't its technology at all. It was the people. Across the planet, people were joining the fight in ways no one had ever imagined. People who had once lived quiet, ordinary lives were now training to become soldiers, scientists, engineers, and strategists. The streets were filled with volunteers, eager to do their part in defending their home. It wasn't just the leaders or the scientists who were stepping up. It was the whole world. Ordinary people were gathering in small groups, forming resistance networks, and contributing whatever they could to the cause. Artists and writers created posters and messages to boost morale, while teachers and parents took the time to instill a sense of unity in the younger generation. The message was clear. Humanity was fighting for its future, and no one was going to back down. In the heart of the Galactic Empire's fleet, Commander Zoreth watched the situation unfold with growing concern. His initial belief that the humans were a primitive species had been shattered. He had underestimated them. The resistance they had shown was not just a small setback. It was a sign of something greater. The Empire's commanders had underestimated Earth's ability to adapt, to innovate, and to fight. And now, the Empire was facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. Back on Earth, the final pieces of humanity's defense plan were falling into place. The new energy shields were tested, and the first wave of Earth's fleet was ready for launch. The Empire's ships were still too far away for a direct confrontation, but Earth's people were no longer afraid. They had shown that they could defend themselves, that they could stand against the might of the Empire and survive. As the humans continued to prepare, one thing became clear. This was not a fight for survival alone. It was a fight for freedom, for the right to determine their own future. And no matter how advanced the Empire was, no matter how many ships they had, humanity would not go down without a fight. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of not just Earth, but of the entire galaxy. The day had finally arrived. Earth's defenses, built from months of tireless work and collaboration, were ready. The Galactic Empire's fleet, massive and intimidating, hovered just outside Earth's orbit, awaiting the order to move forward. It was clear that this was no longer a mere diplomatic negotiation. It was a full-scale standoff between two forces, each determined to have their way. But Earth had something the Empire hadn't expected: the will to fight. At the helm of Earth's defense was General Elena Reyes, a seasoned military leader who had seen her share of battles, but none like this. Standing in front of a large holographic map of the Earth, she surveyed the movement of the Empire's fleet, her eyes sharp with determination. She knew the odds were against them, but she also knew that humanity was not about to give up without a fight. "Commander Hawkins," she called out to the officer standing beside her, "prepare the fleet. We're going to show them what Earth is made of." The young commander nodded and hurried off to relay the orders. In less than an hour, the first wave of Earth's fleet, a mix of newly developed spacecraft and makeshift warships, was in position, ready for battle. These ships were no match for the Empire's vast armada in size or firepower, but they were equipped with advanced energy shields, disruptor weapons, and AI-driven strategies. More importantly, they were piloted by people who had something the Empire could never understand: a deep love for their home and a relentless desire to protect it. The Empire, on the other hand, was confident. Commander Zoreth, still fuming from Earth's earlier resistance, had spent the last few days preparing for what he believed would be a simple task: crush any remaining human opposition and bring Earth into the Empire's fold. His fleet was vast and well-equipped. His ships were far stronger than anything humanity had ever seen. To Zoreth, the battle was already won. It was only a matter of time before Earth would kneel. But Zoreth had underestimated Earth's determination. As Earth's fleet prepared for battle, General Reyes gathered her commanders in the war room. "We don't have the luxury of time. They're not going to stop until we're part of their empire, but I believe in our people. We've built something here, something they won't expect. We're going to fight with everything we have." Her words rang through the room, stirring the hearts of everyone present. It wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for their freedom. They were fighting to keep their planet independent, to ensure their future remained in their own hands. The first clash came suddenly. Earth's ships moved swiftly toward the approaching fleet, their energy shields glowing brightly as they engaged the Empire's ships. The sound of space itself seemed to tremble as lasers and energy beams filled the vast emptiness of space. Earth's ships were small and quick, darting between the larger, slower Imperial vessels. The Empire's massive warships fired their destructive energy blasts, but Earth's new energy shields held strong, absorbing much of the damage. Earth's ships, despite their size, were nimble. They used the Empire's own tactics against them, dodging the Empire's attacks and retaliating with precise, well-aimed disruptor beams. These beams, developed by Earth's scientists, were designed to target the Empire's power cores, and while they couldn't destroy the ships outright, they were enough to weaken their systems, making it harder for the Empire's vessels to fight back. The battle raged on, with Earth's fleet holding its ground. The Empire's ships were clearly superior in raw power, but Earth's ships were quick and clever, taking advantage of every opportunity to strike. General Reyes watched the battle unfold, her heart racing with both excitement and fear. Earth was holding its own. Back in the Empire's command ship, Commander Zoreth gritted his teeth in frustration. The humans were proving to be much more formidable than he had expected. Their ships were faster than his, their tactics more unpredictable. He had assumed Earth would fall easily, but instead they were showing resilience and resourcefulness at every turn. This was no ordinary species. "Send in the second wave," Zoreth ordered. "They won't be able to keep this up forever." The Empire's second wave was a new class of warships, even more powerful and destructive than the first. These ships were designed specifically for combat in deep space, equipped with weapons capable of obliterating entire fleets. The Empire's commanders were confident that this new wave would quickly break Earth's defenses. But just as the second wave arrived, Earth's counterattack intensified. In the midst of the chaos, a group of Earth's new fighter ships, piloted by the best of humanity's young pilots, swooped in. Their mission was simple: find the weak points in the Empire's fleet and strike fast. These pilots had been trained to think on their feet, using the terrain of space to their advantage. With precision, they navigated through the enemy lines, finding opportunities to strike at vulnerable power sources on the Empire's ships. The humans were not without losses. Several of Earth's ships were disabled in the battle, but each loss was met with renewed determination. Earth was not backing down. The sound of their engines, the hum of their disruptor beams, and the sight of their ships moving with incredible agility sent a message to the Empire. Humanity was not ready to give up. Hours passed, and the battle continued. The Empire's second wave began to show signs of weakness, its ships more vulnerable than anticipated. Earth's fleet, though small, had managed to hold its ground, and the tide of the battle had begun to shift. The Empire had never fought a war like this against an enemy that refused to be intimidated. As the battle raged, General Rise remained focused, her mind racing through calculations and strategies. She knew that Earth couldn't sustain this fight forever. They needed a decisive blow, something that would force the Empire to rethink their invasion. She turned to her commanders and gave the order that would change everything. Prepare the final assault. We end this now. With renewed energy, Earth's fleet launched one final, coordinated strike toward the heart of the Empire's forces. This was humanity's last chance to prove that they could stand against the might of the Galactic Empire. And they weren't going to let it slip away. As the final assault began, the atmosphere in Earth's command center was electric. The battle had already lasted for hours, and humanity's fleet had proven that it was not going down without a fight. But General Elena Reyes knew that this was the moment that would decide the outcome. The Empire's fleet, though damaged, still greatly outnumbered them. If Earth's forces couldn't land a decisive blow, they would soon be overwhelmed. General Reyes stood firm at the heart of the war room, her eyes locked on the holographic map. The map showed Earth's fleet in a tense standoff with the Empire's armada. Ships from both sides were scattered across the vastness of space, exchanging fire and dodging incoming blasts. Earth's ships, small but nimble, were doing their best to hold off the Empire's larger, more powerful warships. Every movement counted. One wrong move could spell disaster for humanity. "We have to move quickly," General Rice said, her voice steady, though there was a fire behind her words. "Commander Hawkins, are the final wave fighters ready?" "Yes, General," Commander Hawkins replied, his hands quickly moving over the controls. "All units are prepped and ready for launch. Our pilots are in position." Reyes nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The pilots were Earth's best, young men and women who had volunteered to defend their planet. They were skilled, resourceful, and determined, just like everyone else who had fought in this war. But now they faced the most difficult challenge yet. Launch the fighters. Make sure they target the Empire's power cores, Reyes ordered. The fighter ships, sleek and fast, shot out of Earth's fleet in a well-coordinated wave. These small but highly agile vessels were equipped with the latest weapons and energy shields, designed to get in close and strike at the Empire's vulnerable points. As they broke away from the larger fleet, they moved with lightning speed toward the heart of the Empire's forces. At the same time, General Reyes knew that Earth's fleet couldn't rely solely on the fighters. The Empire had vastly superior firepower, and their ships were still a formidable force. It was time for Earth's greatest weapon, the element of surprise. Reyes had been holding back a secret weapon for just this moment, a new class of stealth ships. These ships were designed to blend seamlessly with the background of space, rendering them nearly invisible to the Empire's advanced sensors. They were Earth's last hope, a risky tactic, but if it worked, it could change the tide of the war. "Activate the stealth ships," Reyes ordered. The fleet's stealth ships, like shadows, slid silently out of formation. They were equipped with special cloaking technology that made them nearly undetectable. The ships moved swiftly through the darkness of space, closing the distance between them and the Empire's command ships. Their goal was simple: take out the Empire's leadership and cripple their command structure. As the stealth ships advanced, the first wave of Earth's fighter ships engaged the Empire head-on. Energy blasts and disruptor beams lit up the dark void of space. The Empire's ships responded with powerful laser blasts, but the fighters were too quick. They darted in and out, striking at the Empire's weak points, their disruptor weapons targeting the power cores of the larger warships. The battle raged on, with each side exchanging heavy fire. But then, something unexpected happened. The Empire's fleet, once so confident in their superiority, began to falter. One by one, their ships started to lose power. Their weapon systems went offline. Their shields flickered. The Empire's commanders were caught off guard, trying to figure out what was happening. "What's going on?" Commander Zoreth shouted in frustration. Why are our ships losing power? The answer was simple. Earth's fighters had succeeded in their mission. The Empire's power cores, once thought to be invulnerable, were now vulnerable to Earth's new disruptor technology. The Empire's ships were disabled, their once perfect systems now in disarray. But the battle was far from over. The Empire's command fleet, still intact, remained a powerful force. And at the center of that fleet, Commander Zoreth stood at the heart of it all. He knew that if he didn't act quickly, the Empire could lose everything. "Prepare the counterattack," Zoreth ordered, his voice cold with determination. "We'll crush them once and for all." Just as the Empire was about to launch its counteroffensive, Earth's stealth ships reached their target. In a daring move, they silently approached the heart of the Empire's command ships. Inside the lead ship, the control room was buzzing with activity, but the Empire's leaders never saw it coming. In an instant, the stealth ships released a powerful electromagnetic pulse, disabling the Empire's communication systems. The command ships, once able to communicate seamlessly with the rest of the fleet, were now isolated. The leaders of the Empire were in chaos. They had lost their ability to coordinate, and without that crucial link, their forces were vulnerable. Back on Earth, General Rise watched as the Empire's fleet began to break apart. The once mighty armada was now in disarray, unable to respond to the fast-moving, nimble ships of Earth. Her fleet, despite being outnumbered, was now in control. The tide of the battle had shifted. "We did it," Commander Hawkins said, his voice filled with awe. "We're not done yet," Rise replied, her eyes never leaving the map. "This isn't over until the Empire retreats." Despite the damage to their forces, the Empire was still a dangerous enemy. They might have been thrown off balance, but they weren't defeated. Yet, for the first time in this conflict, Earth had the upper hand. The balance of power had shifted, and the Empire had learned a harsh lesson. Humanity wasn't just going to bend to their will. Earth's people were fighting for their future, and that was something the Empire hadn't accounted for. As Earth's forces regrouped and prepared for the next phase of the battle, General Rise looked to the horizon, knowing that the fight wasn't over. But today, humanity had made a statement. They would not be conquered. The fight for Earth's future had only just begun. The battle had turned in Earth's favor. But the fight was far from over. Though the Empire's fleet had been thrown into disarray, General Elena Reyes knew that the threat was still very real. Commander Zoreth, though caught off guard, was not the type to give up easily. He had proven his strategic brilliance in the past, and Earth's recent victories had only made him more determined to crush humanity's resistance. Back in Earth's command center, General Reyes stood before the large holographic map of space. The Earth fleet was still in formation, but there was no time for celebration. She could see the remnants of the Empire's fleet trying to regroup, their once imposing strength now fractured. But they still outnumbered Earth's forces, and the battle was not yet won. "We need to keep up the pressure," General Rice said, her voice calm but firm. "We've thrown them off balance, but we can't let them recover. This is our chance to push them back for good." Her commanders, now used to her clear-headed leadership, nodded in agreement. They had already done the impossible, holding off the Empire's superior force. But General Reyes wasn't about to stop there. The next step would be the most difficult. Earth had to push the Empire back and force them to retreat from their home system. If they could do that, they would win the war. "Commander Hawkins, I need a full analysis of their remaining fleet," Rise ordered. Hawkins worked quickly, pulling up data on the remaining Imperial forces. The Empire still had several heavily armored capital ships, but their numbers were fewer now. The fighter fleets, although still intact, had been severely weakened by Earth's earlier strikes. The true problem, however, was their leadership. The Empire's command structure was in disarray, making it hard for them to coordinate any sort of coherent attack. They were scattered, vulnerable. "We have a window of opportunity," Hawkins said, pointing at the screen. "If we strike now, we can take out their command ships and force them to retreat." Reyes nodded. "We're not just going to push them back. We're going to end this now. Prepare the fleet for a final offensive." The order was given, and Earth's ships, though battered, rallied together. Fighters and warships alike began to move into formation, preparing for a coordinated assault. The final strike would be quick, precise, and relentless. They had one chance to make this count. Meanwhile, Commander Zorath stood on the bridge of his flagship, his expression grim. His fleet was broken, but he refused to acknowledge defeat. He had fought countless battles and won many, and he would not let a mere group of humans stand in his way. The loss of communication with his command ships had been a temporary setback. His engineers had already begun repairs, and his forces were ready to strike back. Earth had won a few small victories, but the war was far from over. "Prepare the fleet," Zorath commanded. "We'll show these humans the power of the Empire. Once we regroup, we'll crush them." His officers nodded, though many of them exchanged uneasy glances. The humans had been more resilient than anyone had expected, and their ability to adapt and innovate was unlike anything the Empire had faced. Even now, as Zorath prepared for the final battle, he could sense that his fleet was not as strong as it had been before the humans had made their move. As Earth's fleet approached the Empire's command ships, the final showdown began. The fighters, led by the most skilled pilots Earth had to offer, surged forward, moving with precision. Their target was simple: take down the remaining command ships and cripple the Empire's ability to fight back. They darted and weaved, avoiding enemy fire, closing in on their targets. One by one, Earth's fighters unleashed their powerful disruptor beams, striking the Empire's capital ships in their vulnerable power cores. The Empire's ships, though larger and more heavily armed, could not match the speed and agility of the human ships. Each blow sent ripples through the Empire's fleet, further weakening their position. On the bridge of Zorath's flagship, alarms blared as one of his ships was hit. The massive warship shuddered under the impact, and the crew scrambled to assess the damage. Zorath's eyes narrowed in anger. The humans were proving to be more than just a nuisance. They were making a real push for victory. "Regroup. Bring the remaining ships together," Zorath ordered. "We'll hold them off together." But it was too late. The Empire's fleet was fractured, its ships isolated. Earth's forces pressed forward, taking advantage of every opening. It was clear now that the Empire had no chance of winning. They were out of position, unable to organize a counterattack, and their forces were being picked off one by one. Back on Earth, General Reyes watched the unfolding battle with bated breath. She could see the Empire's fleet crumbling under the pressure. The Imperial command ships were beginning to falter, and the remaining forces were starting to retreat. "It's happening," Commander Hawkins said, his voice filled with disbelief. "They're retreating." General Reyes nodded. "Keep pushing. We can't afford to let them regroup." But even as Earth's ships continued to advance, Zorath had made a difficult decision. He knew that his fleet could not win this battle, not with their command structure in chaos. The remaining ships were battered, and the human fighters were relentless. It was time to cut their losses. With a heavy heart, Zorath ordered the retreat. The remaining Imperial ships turned, their engines flaring as they fled back into the depths of space. The Empire, for all its power and dominance, was forced to retreat from Earth. General Reyes stood at the heart of the command center, her fists clenched in victory. It had been a hard-fought battle, but Earth had won. The Empire's invasion had been halted, and Earth's freedom had been preserved. "We did it," she whispered to herself, her voice filled with pride. "We did it." The war was far from over, and there would be more challenges ahead. But for now, humanity had proven something to the Empire. They would not be conquered. They would not be ruled. They would fight, and they would win. The victory was only the beginning of what was to come. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth stood up to the Galactic Empire and won. The Galactic Empire had retreated, their massive fleet vanishing into the vastness of space. Earth had stood its ground, and in doing so, had proven something that would echo across the stars for centuries. It wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for freedom, for the right to remain independent. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and in the end, they had been forced to retreat. Back on Earth, General Elena Reyes stood on the balcony of the command center, looking out over the vast expanse of the planet she had just fought to protect. It was a clear day, the sun shining brightly over the world below. People across the globe were celebrating, not just because Earth had won, but because they had come together in a way that was nothing short of miraculous. They had faced an unbeatable enemy, and against all odds, had emerged victorious. But the celebration was bittersweet. The war had taken a toll. Lives had been lost, families had been torn apart, and the scars of battle would remain for years to come. Yet, even in the midst of this, there was hope. Hope that Earth had proven its strength, its unity, and its unwavering will to protect what it held dear.